Welcome back, everyone. We're waiting for a few more people to come into the in-person part, and hopefully everyone online is nice and comfortable for the rest of the afternoon. We're going to try to stick to the time for this afternoon, so we're just waiting on one little technical issue right now, but while that's being done, I will introduce the next session, which is all about space in different ways than the permanent side that we saw this morning, although you will see many similarities. So I'd like to invite to the stage a special guest coming from Montreal, Guillaume Aniorté, the International Executive Advisor for the Quartier des Spectacles Partnership. You can come take a seat here. We have Matteo Scainelli, Project Manager, Cultural Activities Area and European Cultural Networks and Project from the city of Torino, Italy. Ciao. Marion Traversy, Project Manager for the Fête des Lumières. And joining us all the way from Finland via Zoom, Elisa Hillgen from the city of Jyväskylä. I don't know if she can connect.
Hello, hello.
Hello, there you are. Hello, Elisa, good to see you.
You too.
Great. Okay, so, and me, I will be the moderator for today's session. So I'm going to come join you on stage this way. Okay. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Nope. Now? Okay. Great. So we will try to stick to an hour for this session too. Thank you all for joining me here today and Elisa via Zoom. We'll start all the way in Montreal. And a lot of people, when we talk about animation of public space and children, the first thing that comes to their mind is the Quartier des Spectacles. Many people that we talk to really look to you as an example. So we're so happy that you're here with us all the way from Montreal, and we're looking forward to seeing your presentation. And I think you can take off the mask, and I'll put mine back on.
Je vais respirer un peu. Merci beaucoup, Jessica. Ravi de savoir que Montréal est considéré comme une plaque.
This might help me to breathe. Well, thanks very much, Jessica, and I'm happy to know that that Montreal is one of the examples when it comes to children and lighting, urban lighting. So I'm Aniorté. I'm in charge of Quartier des Spectacles management, and we do that in collaboration with other organizations and cities. And I'm going to tell you about Quartier des Spectacles and today's topic, that's to say the relation between children and lighting, urban lighting, and also the close relationship with families is also crucial to us. For those of you who don't know Montreal, and I'm sure you'll want to go to Montreal after that presentation. So this neighborhood, Quartier des Spectacles, is right in between the business district and the old town. It's one of the most touristic places in Montreal. And so a lot of people walk by in this neighborhood, a lot of different types of people, students, workers. And so there are lots of needs that we can address in this neighborhood. So this neighborhood is 1 square kilometer neighborhood, and there are lots of venues. And it's a very important neighborhood in Quebec, but also in Canada. And so there are open spaces with lots of festivals, except for this COVID period, but we do have a jazz festival that attracts millions of people, and it represents 25% of all the concert tickets sold in the Quebec province. So it's a very important space. We're going to start with this video so that it makes you want to go there. So the Quartier de Spectacle is managed by an organization, a non-profit, that's mainly funded by the municipality, and its objective is to create this space to which we go without only wanting to see a concert, but also to go there and live there and walk around. And so we're creating events or sculptures or artwork with lighting, and this should attract children and families. And when it comes to children and families, there are key elements that we'd like to really develop in order to engage with them. And contrary to other types of art, these projects really seek to engage with its audience. We're talking about immersing here, and we're trying to really create a direct bond between what we create and the audience. So we try to remove all interfaces like smartphones or tablets. We want to create direct contact, direct link. And we also want to go back to this childhood imaginary in order to create awe, and also in order for people to move together, to dance together, to create together and talk and communicate. Well, one of the first projects that we created, and it's one of the iconic projects that we've created, it's these musical swings that really was striking. It was one of the highlights of the city. And so depending on how heavily they swing, well, then it creates music and it creates melodies with different sounds of instrument sounds. And this project was so successful that it inspired us for other projects. And we saw that using our childhood to create things is something that really attracts people. And that's what we've done with this program that some of you might know, and it's called Light Therapy, Luminothérapie. And it helps us to fund artworks and participative artworks, and especially during winter. And so our objective is to encourage people to get out, even during the winter with their children, the season when people tend to want to stay at home. And so we've created a lot of projects that really found their inspiration in childhood. And so with, for instance, for this project called POP, so you can see that there are these creations, what we call monoliths, that are activated by human voice. And for once, people can scream and shout, and that's how creatures come out from these blocks. And another project that's quite renowned internationally and is called Impulse. And so these are lit seesaws, and they also create music, and they come to light. And we can see that this also has an impact not only on children, but also on adults, on families, symbolizes how we can create an art together. And there's also this giant domino game. And so when we flip the domino pieces, it creates a light and musical symphony. And so there's a collaborative and participative aspect to this. And it creates light effects. So there are 120 dominoes, and you can imagine how much space they take on the public space. So these projects were really successful in Quebec, and so they were able to tour in other countries. And we visited more than 70 cities up till now. And we've developed partnerships with other organizations, other cities that wish to conquer that audience, children and families. And we want to co-publish these projects. So with France, Canada, the US, and we're really open to your suggestions and to
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. I have to switch languages now. What we'll do is we'll do each presentation that we will get inspired by all of you, and then we'll have a conversation and I'll come up with some questions. So I'll hand it over to Elisa on Zoom next. And
Thank you.
yes, there you are.
I'm here.
And here you go. You'll share your screen and we'll see your presentation from there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So hope you can see it. Can you confirm? Yes. So I'm okay to go, right? I think so.
Yes,
Yep.
you can go.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So hello, everybody, and good afternoon. My name is Elisa Hillgen, and I'm a lighting coordinator from city of Jyväskylä in central Finland. I'm very sad I can't be there in person, but I hope I can deliver a message from our city of light, which is actually very cold and getting dark again today. We have about -20 at the moment, so it's very wintry weather at the moment. So just quickly, I want to explain the City of Light project, and you get the idea of how we work here. The aim of the project is to develop urban lighting in general. So we are giving guidance on lighting and building illuminated sites, and also arranging many kinds of events. So light festival, but also professional events and conferences and other type of things that we want to maybe bring out the message of good lighting and showcasing and spreading knowledge on lighting in general. Jyväskylä, the population is about 143,000, so you get the idea of the scale. We are quite a medium-sized city, but we are very known for a good lighting because this project has been ongoing for over 20 years now. But today we are talking about children and maybe a bit more temporary things. So mainly for us, it's about the Light Festival, which is it's very loved and weighted part of our September every year. Last year we had to cancel, as you know, but this year we were able to have it again, and we made a very nice record of audience of 150,000 people. So the Light Festival, it started out as a bit more based on architectural lighting, showcasing what we can do in urban environment with lighting, showcasing the results of workshops and so on. But nowadays, I think since last 5 years, it's been more artistic and family oriented, a bit more fun, and well, it's for everybody. And also, as you can see here, it's a very special moment for children also. One reason that people, I think they feel like this is their event, it's because they are also part of that. We plan the event together with many companies, but also with church and schools, and for example, arts and crafts groups. So we have many ways for people to join this festival and maybe bring their own participation to it. So I think that's a great way to have a festival, because everybody feels like this is our special moment. Here you can see a few examples, and I think this is these two pictures, they are good examples of just very fun, quirky piece of installation. And also people can go inside and they can touch and they can feel the material and they can feel the light. because they are inside. And I was remembering when I was a child back in the 80s, I think I always had the feeling of everything was a bit of, forbidden. It's like, don't touch it and don't go there and don't do that. So I think the world is changing a bit, and now we are encouraging people to, own their own environment and use the space as their playground. It goes for everybody, for grown-ups and children as well. So this is one picture I really like. I think we used this for this event also for LUCI, but this is just a silly and small idea. But these bunnies have been in many festivals, and it's a great example of how children, when they can touch the light, and I think they're first like, is it okay really to touch, and can we move the bunnies? And we wanted to encourage them to make different forms and put them in rows or circles. And every time I went to check the bunnies, they were very closely together or around the tree, and I tried to spread them a bit and make it bigger, but every time kids just wanted the bunnies to be together. So this was very cute. And it's a good example of the magic of you can touch the light and you can actually be allowed to experience and move things around. And other example of moving things around, this is from 2019. The artist is in the center, Jonas Borwerk from Netherlands. And here you can see he's actually the only grown-up touching the cubes. And then these two little guys playing around with the light cubes. And grown-ups just wondering, is this okay, and can we touch it? So this was very good example of art installation that was very interacting with children, and also colorful and fun piece of installation. These two pictures are from this year. These light dudes, as you can see on the left, they were really, really lovable and fun guys. And one thing they had was the surprise, because they were just appearing somewhere along the way of the festival route. So children just loved them. They were dancing with the guys and taking pictures, and just quite the simple idea, but giving really special moments for everybody. And picture on the right, this is very simple installation of my own, and this also allows kids to jump inside and step on the light and use it as a labyrinth or something. Eventually, I made a mistake of just going there and tried to change the place of the rope. So everybody thought it's okay to pick it up and try to move with the rope and use it as a jump rope or something. So yeah, eventually it was broken, but it was worth it totally to see the joy when they were able to swing the light around and touch it. So very nice example again. Here we have a few pictures of, I think, something that we can actually teach people how the light works, and maybe show a bit, just give them understanding of the light phenomenon and things they can understand when they actually interact with light. The left picture is from our city art museum, and it's a temporary wall. And as you can understand, it's just normal white wall before something steps into the light, and then you can see the shadows. So it's a fun thing to explore and kind of find in art museum. And the other one, I love this girl. Just this is Johan Rocklander's picture from the installation, and she's just enjoying the movement of the shadow and making a mushroom shape, which is very fun thing to play around with. Yeah, I was supposed to talk about temporary things, but these are our permanent things around the city. I just wanted to show you a few examples. The playground on the top left, it's just yeah, RGB phenomenon again, but it's a permanent thing. And on the right, you can see this very dramatic, maybe we think it might be a bit scary, the dark and very dramatically illuminated playground. But for children, I think it's good for their imagination, something you can see behind the stones or figures and statues. So I think it's kind of nice. And on the bottom, there's just a carousel that's working with the motion sensor. So when children enter the device, the light comes on. So they can be kind of part of doing the light by their present. Here is a few examples of guerrilla lighting that we really encourage communities and cities to try out, because this is a fun way to engage children and families and all the age groups of just experiencing what we can do with light, and have some hands-on work, because it's so fun to touch the light and being part of the whole picture, like seeing, oh, that's me holding the light over there, and I was being part of this big picture. So I think this is a very good way to engage people to play with the light. So last, I think now, because we are just heading towards Christmas, it's nice to show our Christmas lighting. And this is also something we encourage children to go into the sleigh or go into the ball and just wonder how these reindeers can be 5 meters tall or so on. So it's amazing magical moments, and we hope to create memories and maybe create something that when these children grow up, they can see, like, this is our park. And during the summer, it looks different, but during the dark, it has the own special kind of feeling that is part of living in Jyväskylä. So thank you very much. This is the last picture I really like. Like, we know light is very touching for us professionals, but we need to allow people to touch the light too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elisa. I heard a lot of common words here in between what we heard from in Montreal and in Jyväskylä, and we'll probably hear some more here. Touch, how children, and families want to be able to touch things, not be behind their cell phones, and that magic and awe that we're trying to create in public space. We've seen it now in both of these countries, and maybe we can touch on that later. How does a city really do that, especially, with COVID times, that's made even more challenging, but with crowd control, how do you manage crowds? Jyväskylä is a smaller city, but in Montreal, I'd love to maybe touch upon that at the end. So keep that in mind. So now we'll go over to Italy, in Torino, and hear about what's happening with LUCI d'Artista and children in your city.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matteo Scainelli. I work in the working group dealing with art in public space, and with the public program related to LUCI d'Artista, which is an open-air collection, public collection of luminous works. First of all, since we started in 2018, we involved more than 18,000 students, with participation growing from about 3,000 the first edition to almost 8,000 students in the last one. We worked with 26 different schools, from preschools, primary schools, and secondary schools. We worked with hospitals too, to reach children there. And we lead the program, the public program of LUCI d'Artista, with 4 museums: Gampav, Merz Foundation, Rivoli Castle. They are 4 museums of contemporary art in Torino. Okay, how does the project start? We started from the specificity of LUCI d'Artista in Torino, which is an open-air contemporary art collection. So having an open-air collection allowed us to go beyond the walls of museums to spread the works through all the neighborhoods, and to deal with the needs expressed in these areas. We believe that art experience is something you can do in a museum, but also outside the museum. And we work with schools because we believe that schools is the perfect way, the main link to reach families and communities. So from students to families, and from families to communities, therefore to new and wider audiences. The connection with our collection, with LUCI d'Artista, takes always place through manual works. We started from this work by Luigi Nervo. Nervo did not just make art, he educated in art, involving students, sharing and teaching manual skills in order to transform poor materials into artistic objects. According to Nervo, knowing how to do things with your hands means to understand properly, to improve deductive skills. So this kind of activities allow the children to combine manual skills with the development of imagination and creative thinking. So here you can see some workshops with children. We started with clay. This is clay manipulations. We had workshops on paper too, and going into. Okay, this is a work by Tobias Reberger. It is the name is My Noon. It is a clock. It seems like an abstract sculpture, but is a clock using binary system. So it shows the time by switching on and off the elements of this sculpture. Starting from this binary system, we had a workshop on light. It's a shadow theater workshop. So students studied the relationship between light, shadow, light, and dark. So they worked with drawing and cutting out shapes. They studied the idea of shapes in a silhouette, and therefore of the shadow as the manifestation of the silhouette relating to light. And this is a kind of a workshop that allowed us to work with different languages, that of the body mainly. So it is a kind of a community artistic expression. The children found the pleasure of creating together. And this is a work by Mario Molinari, Concerto di Parole, concert of words, and students worked with one of the main theme of Molinari, which is the playful side of geometric shapes. Once again, is a workshop with drawing and cutting out. The black one are organic shapes. So the work was about the balance between geometric shapes and organic shapes. So it was a study about the balance between culture and nature. This is the technique that Matisse used. It was the Matisse technique of drawing with scissors. And they made the mobiles. And this is the last one. The last one was a workshop on bioluminescence. So children studied this phenomenon. You know, some animals and plants share this kind of chemical reaction using a protein to produce light. So they studied light from this point of view, from light as a fundamental element to artistic expression, to light as a life strategy for its transformation and evolution. That's all.
Grazie, Matteo. That was very inspiring, wonderful to see what the city of Torino is doing with children, and from not just doing everything around light, but being inspired by light to do other kinds of art. We saw scissors, drawing, sculpture.
They start with a walk to get in touch, to know, to experience LUCI d'Artista, the open air art collection, and they go with the education department of museums. They go to do workshops in order to give their own point of view about the works.
Great. Okay, so I think we'll now go over to Lyon with Marion, and I think it will join a little bit what we've just heard from Matteo, Lyon's experience with workshops, children, and the new ideas that are coming this year.
Merci Jessica. Donc aujourd'hui,
Let me introduce myself. I'm a project manager for the Fête de Lumière, the Lights Festival in Lyon. So I'm in charge of programming and production for the event. This year, we wanted to take the opportunity of the fact that the 2020 edition was canceled and some of the events were postponed to this year. But also there was a change in the executive governance in the city. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to develop new projects. And indeed this year, the idea is to work closer with children. And that is one of the main ideas, because of course the Lights Festival has always been a very popular family event, but this year we wanted to go even further. And so it's just like Tom Thumb, we're trying to leave a trail. But the idea is to start working, focusing more on children and working in closer proximity with our public, and really be working with mediation to help people understand the Festival of Lights better, and really highlight the work of the artists and help the public understand this link that's already very strong between the inhabitants of Lyon and this event. And we want this link to strengthen as the years go by. So this year, the first initiative that was imagined was to create a space during the 4 days of the festival that would be fully devoted to children. So we worked with a collective of artists who've already worked on the Festival of Lights. They're called the LAPS group, and they created these luminous illuminated shapes that you can see here in this photo, taking inspiration from games that all of us have played, such as the snake game, tic-tac-toe, etc. And to install them in the park so that the park would be a place which, thanks to its geographic location, it's actually on the edge of the city and not so close to the rest of the Lights Festival. So we wanted to work with the local neighborhoods, the 7th and the 8th arrondissement, and work with the inhabitants around these parks and have a closer relationship with some of these inhabitants. So we decided to create this space that would be a real living space with a sort of a carnival or amusement park spirit. So all of these works require participation by the public, so they can play on the trampoline. And unfortunately, some of the health restrictions have limited this interaction. We wanted people to be able to come in and have food and beverages, and we weren't able to do that. But nevertheless, it's been very successful, as we saw yesterday evening. So it's something that we're going to try and develop more and more. We really want to have projects that are devoted to these child-friendly installations, to think more about our position in this respect, because today the Lights Festival is organized directly by the city of Lyon, and we are in charge of events and coordination of these events and festivals for Lyon. So we really have a vocation of public service in the way we're going to imagine this Lights Festival and the way we will try to have a very demanding offer with a high quality offer for the public. But the idea is to be able to help people interact more. So in the near future, we hope that our festival will be more and more inclusive. It never excluded anyone, but we're going to work even further to make sure that it's inclusive. Now, the most visible aspect is this project that you can go and see at the Blondin Park. And we also worked closely with the public this year to develop an educational handbook with some games. And I have some copies. If you'd like to see one, you're welcome to take a booklet. And the idea is to shed some light for children on the Lights Festival with some games. It's 24 pages long. It talks about lights, the history of lights in general. And then it describes 7 different works of the Lights Festival. Here you see the one that's called L'Illumination du Cœur, which is an operation that we organize, which is focusing on solidarity with these little specific candles that are specific, or lights that are specific to Lyon, called Luminion. And some of these games are coloring games, or a labyrinth, or putting things back in the right order, but they allow children to have a different insight into the artist's work. What are the values that the artist defends in certain works? Some works are very represent humanitarian values. Others focus more on sustainable development. So the booklet helps children to understand these works better. And it also proposes some activities. Here you see a little paper cutout that represents a phoenix when you put it together. And if you put it on top of a source of light, it's really quite beautiful. And then children can create a little projector so that they can learn more about the principles of light. And then the idea is to be able to really have mediation activities through this object, but also thanks to other small events. We developed artist workshops in community centers linked to the schools, where children come in outside of and do extracurricular activities outside of school. And what is very interesting in these workshops is that the artists who participated all have different profiles. Some build objects, others are vidyasts, videographers. Each one has a different approach. And they were all able to explain their profession to the children, but they also had the children test a certain number of things in different ways. It was a very interesting experience. All of the artists came home very, very enthusiastic about the experience, and it was also very positive for the community center and for the children. We had sessions, 3 sessions for each center. One was a kickoff with the artists who came to talk about their project and their work and interact with the children. The second session was a session based on the educational booklet that the youth leaders worked on with the children, all these activities inside the booklet. And the third session that will take place at the end of the Festival of Lights will consist in producing their own work of art that resonates with everything that they've seen. And if they've gone to visit the Festival of Lights, it might give them even more material to work with. And something that we're very proud of this year is that this booklet, we succeeded in distributing it in all of the schools, private and public schools in Lyon. So 35,000 students in Lyon had it in their hands and were able to participate in workshops. And 10,000 booklets will be distributed to the public during the 4 evenings. So we tried to initiate new things this year. And we're going to be continuing in the near future every year, because we really, during the mayor's term with his municipal team, we really want to focus on making Lyon a city adapted to children. And it's really something very strong in terms of the city. So for the Festival of Lights, we've been trying to develop this with a lot of enthusiasm.
We saw the touch, children being able to play with light, play with these objects. So I want to maybe start with that question. We can start a conversation here, and then we'll open to questions in the audience, and hopefully our online audiences, we still see you and know you're here. Thank you for following. So maybe Quartier des Spectacles, you now have a lot of experience with these interactive artworks outside, in snow, in rain, with a lot of people touching them. Can you tell us a little bit more about those challenges, how you overcome them? And maybe Marion, if you want to talk about the challenges of the first year doing this with children, and there might be something to talk about here.
Il y a plusieurs défis.
Yes, there are several challenges. The first, of course, is to create this magical interaction with the object. And this is where the artist's work and is so important, because it's a process where we create prototypes. So we start a first interaction in this way. And I think if you refer to games that children play when they're young, that's always a win-win situation. So you engage not only the children, but their families, and they bring their families into Quartier des Spectacles, which is a place where people usually come in Montreal to see shows. And whereas here, we really want to create a destination, a daily destination for families. So this is the first challenge. And we're in a world where technology and smartphones and tablets are so present. We like them when we're on Instagram, but we want to avoid them when we really want to have a direct interaction between the artwork and the public. The other aspect is the technical aspect. And as you said, some of these projects are presented outdoors in the snow, just like people in Finland, for example, who are with us online. It is a cold environment in Montreal, and we have to make sure that these objects have long lives, and we do want them to travel around the world as well. So we have this twofold consideration, which is conceptual and technical, to make sure that our installations can survive and can travel. This year, it was our first year. We were starting from scratch, and yes, we did have problems similar to yours in terms of designing these works that were going to be exposed outdoors. Of course, our temperatures in Lyon are not so extreme as in Montreal, but sometimes we did have difficult weather conditions. But the idea was to create places where people would really spend time and requalify the relationship, the public experience. For the Lights Festival, it's a very successful event. People come year after year. We have many people who come locally into Lyon. We have tourists as well, but it is an event that's very much belongs to the people of Lyon. And all of the people in Lyon have a real link to the Lights Festival. So the idea was to question this link and to maybe take it further, to move away from our habits and work with the public. And we actually found it very amusing to do this. It's always really nice to imagine projects where children will be having fun, and we're trying to put ourselves in their shoes. And it was really interesting because at the scale of the city, it allowed us to create interesting synergies between the different departments, where people really collaborated to, for example, the first year we were already able to distribute this booklet in all of the schools. That was something that we hadn't even dreamed of at the start. So we realized that this project really aggregated all the enthusiasms, and we were able to create a very strong dynamic with the artists and with the people that we associated with the project. So one of the challenges for us was all of this energy that was created. It took us even further than what we expected in the beginning. And we hope that we'll be able to improve even further next year.
In future years, in the development, and also being inspired by other cities around the world who are doing similar things. I had a... Yeah.
Il y a peut-être une chose dont j'ai oublié de vous.
I forgot to tell you about one thing that's important in the Lights Festival. Here we talked a lot about children, but at the Lights Festival for years, there's been something that's really part of the DNA, which is the students' experiments, students' artwork, and there are more and more high quality works of art produced by the students. And I really invite you to go see them this year, because when we work with the artists, there's really this dimension of, we really want to be looking at every step in the process of creation, from young creators and more experienced artists as well. And we're really happy to see all the projects that have been carried out that are all really different from each other, whether it's the Franco-German platform or the large Villefontaine workshops or the high school Martinière and Branly high schools. So there's a real sense of emulation of young people, young creators who are also real players in the Lights Festival.
First of all, just a reminder to everyone tonight who's coming on the guided visit of the Fête des Lumières, we will go by to see the student works. So it's important to see that, especially after this talk today about how do we transfer the knowledge about lighting, urban lighting, creative lighting to future generations. It's all those moments of childhood through adulthood. Perhaps Elisa, if you're still with us on Zoom, to talk a little bit more about the workshops that you're doing, and how at the beginning of your presentation you talked about how one of your goals with the city project is to transfer this knowledge about lighting, teach about lighting to students from young ages to adult. If you want to go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, I think, well, the example of guerrilla lighting workshops, that's a very good example. And also, just last week, I was doing a workshop with teenagers, not actually in Jyväskylä, but that was a very great experience to work with the, 12 or 13 years olds. And like someone mentioned, it was really easier to get the girls on board, but there was also 2 boys, so about 12 people. So you can imagine all the hassle and all the excitement of the group, but it was very great age to show them what you can do with light, and they were very excited about the results. So I guess these are just very good ways to have people understand the lighting and get them involved in all the technical issues, but also the feeling of light and how it's created. And also I think it's important to open up the whole design process in urban design. And for example, one of the parks were designed with the local kids, and they made surveys of how they feel about their neighborhood and what they want to have there. So just give people the idea that they can actually join in and they can have a say. So I think it's an important message to deliver.
Great. Matteo, do you want to add anything to this, or maybe you can add?
No, it's quite the same. We wanted to bring art between people's feet as a stumbling block, believing that art can really, the experience of art can really change the perception about places, people, and relationships. So it's not just about aesthetics, it's about valuing people, about acquiring new knowledge and recognizing their skills. So that's why we work with students and therefore with the families and the communities. And that's why we spread the work. We started with LUCI d'Artista 24 years ago, but it was, everything was in the center of the city. You could walk and look at the works like a museum, an open air museum. Since 2016, we changed totally, and we spread the works all through the neighborhoods. For this reason, art as a stumbling block, not only a museum, but outside museums.
Great, and that's what Lyon is trying to do, just to get this great example of spreading it out into outside of the city center. So perhaps, let's look at the time. I'd love to open it up if there are any questions in the audience, since we didn't get to do that this morning. This is your chance. We'll try to clean the microphone so you can ask a question. Are there any questions? Don't be shy. Okay, well, while you're thinking of your questions, you still have a few minutes to think about them. Do you three have questions with Elisa too for each other, since it's a great moment to get some international perspectives? Yeah.
Oui, moi je trouve très intéressant de voir le processus.
Yes, it was really interesting to see that creative process with children, which we don't do so much. We're really trying to think about how to develop works that really engage children from a creative standpoint. We're going to, we also look at a lot of these traditional games such as swings or teeter-totters, etc. But there's children are very rapidly engaged in what we call retroaction, and they can create a very direct, immediate link with artwork. And this is what makes the games on, or video games, the games on the web so successful. But when you were creating with children, what did it contribute to you? We could imagine an installation that would be completely designed by children, and that would be very interesting. When we work with children, we think, when we think we know everything, the children arrive and then they upset everything. And it's another viewpoint completely. And that's why it's so interesting to work with children. With the meaning of the artwork is very different from them, and it's for them, and it's very interesting. I agree with what Matteo was saying about when you engage children in this process of democratization or cultural democratization, it really gives them a sense of self-worth. We're providing them with things that may seem a little bit impressive or a little bit intimidating to them, but we give them the keys to understand, and we say, look, it's easy. We can do it with you. And this creates enthusiasm that's really interesting to observe. And they can have perceptions and reflections that are very, very rich. In the workshops, we saw children who had perceptions of the emotions in an artwork that we never would have imagined that they would perceive. Children who were 6, 7, 8, who perceived anger or sadness in these light installations. And they had so much fun, but they also felt a sense of self-worth thanks to this knowledge. When they were able to handle different light artworks, it's not always available to all children in every family. They don't all have the same relationship to light. And that's why this notion of public service at our level, I think it's really interesting to open up these doors and then let people choose to participate or not. And that's why for children, it's so interesting. You put everything on the table and then they can take it or not. But if they decide to take it, often they experience a very interesting moment, and it really is encouraging for them and gives them a sense of self-worth. Well, I think we can launch an appeal because we love co-producing and producing projects in collaboration. Maybe we could do a project initiated by children. We're very interested. So if people online or in the room are interested in working on that with us, we are also very open to that.
For the speakers here, since you're far away.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Do you have any questions for our speakers that are here that...
Well, not actually, but just greetings and thank you for sharing, because it was very interesting to hear what other cities are doing and maybe get some ideas to share back and forth. So thank you very much. It was nice to hear your greetings.
Great. All right, last chance for a question from the audience, and then we'll go to the next session? No, we're very shy today. Okay. Well, we'll have these videos, like we said, available online after this event. So if you want to come back and look at the videos, and if you have questions, you can always email them to luci@luciassociation.org, and we'll try to share it with the speakers and start a conversation around it. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Elisa, and
Thank
we'll see
you.
you soon.